This is Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. I hope you enjoyed this Critical Thought, your daily discussion on game design. Hello everybody, and welcome to today's Critical Thought. Before we begin, thank you to 815 subscribers here on YouTube. We broke the 800 mark a few days ago, and we are slowly but surely making our way up to 900. If you're enjoying the content here, be sure to subscribe to the channel and vote for the next Let's Play. The voting ends October 25th at midnight. Your choices this time are the Hitman 2016 play, a look back at the classic games of PopCap Games, and a tour of some of the games that I just can't get into. But I'll leave you to the voting for that. If you haven't guessed by now by the photo over there, today's Critical Thought is going to be on the Nintendo Switch. And my thoughts for this are going to be a little bit segmented or fragmented, as there is a lot to unpack. But let's get with the big announcement. Yesterday, Nintendo announced officially their next system, the Nintendo Switch. It is going to be, at this moment, due out in March of 2017. Now, if you look at my little screenshot up there, you can sort of see, hopefully, the different parts of it. The control interface is going to be the two, I think they're called Joy-Cons now, I think that's the name they said, and they attach to that device, and from what it looks like, that's going to be their charge. I know I'm not looking at the camera as I'm just staring at the Switch right now. And what the big twist or the hook on the Nintendo Switch is the screen itself that you can see that hand pulling out. When it's attached to the base like that, it works like your Wii U or your typical game console. Plug it in, hooks up to your TV, play it. When you take it out, however, you can attach the Joy-Cons to either side of the screen, and it becomes a portable system. The thing is that instead of having the hardware and what's running the medium in the actual base, as you did with the Wii U, Wii, and any other game console, it's all contained in the tablet device itself. And what Nintendo is promoting is that we essentially have a handheld console. Since everything is connected to the tablet itself, you hook the Joy-Cons in, put your actual cartridge in, I'll come back to that in a few minutes, and you have a system that you can literally play anywhere, because it's all self-contained. Now, with that said, there's rumors that it has a 3-hour battery life. That could be a little bit tricky, especially on planes, unless it has a portable charger. But it's definitely a completely different direction for Nintendo. And as I said in yesterday's Game Wisdom Live, which should be somewhere over here right now, somewhere like that, it, I think, is a good move. As a longtime Nintendo fan, I'm not going to try and say that I was the first one to think of this, but a lot of us older fans have been thinking for some time that Nintendo should really stop trying to pursue the #1 spot. Even as a longtime fan, it's not going to happen. Nintendo in this current market is just not going to have a #1 console. They just don't have the third-party exclusives and the functionality that makes them welcoming towards consumers and the larger market as a whole. But that's alright. Nintendo has shown in the past that they are the best at being themselves. They know they're not going to have a #1 system, so why try and copy Sony and Microsoft? And as you can see with the Nintendo Switch, this is Nintendo basically saying, I don't give a, you know. And I think that is very good for them. What we've seen with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One is, outside of their first and second party game support, they are largely interchangeable. Now, with that said, Sony has definitely done a good job of positioning themselves as the more welcoming platform, or I should say the more experimental one. They've been far more inviting to indie developers, and they've recently, I believe at this point, released the PlayStation VR. With that said, with the Nintendo, the Wii U has certainly not been lighting up the sales charts. It has gone back to Nintendo's weakness with courting third-party publishers and developers to try and get them to get their games on their system. Because the Wii U was such a different beast, it wasn't that great for the third-party games. Now with Nintendo Switch, that does raise a few questions. What kind of games are we going to see on that platform? Especially with that control interface. Again, if you look at that, it looks very awkward to me to play. The analog stick distance to those buttons looks very big. Also, I'm not sure how the actual size of that device is going to be. For people who have big hands like yours truly, I wonder if my hands are just going to smother that thing. The thing with the 360 controller and the PlayStation controller itself, or the DualShock system, is that this format has really become standardized. It's also very comfortable to hold, at least for me. And it does lead me to wonder how that's going to feel in your hands. As you can see by looking at that screenshot, it doesn't really have a D-pad. Instead, it makes use of 4 cardinal buttons, because when you take them off, you can hand one Joy-Con to the other person, and they can basically each play their own games. They've already announced the Nintendo Switch Controller Pro, which is going to be more of a traditional controller system. But it does look like this is going to be another peripheral heavy kind of system. With the Wii U, you had, of course, the base, the tablet. It could connect the Wii Nunchuck and Wiimote, any extra things like the bases for Toys to Life, and of course the sensor bar, and even I just lost it off the top of my head, base and all that. Nuts, I completely lost my train of thought there, but we're not stopping. Maybe it will come back to me in a few minutes. But it looks like they're going very much a heavy route there. Now, one of the thoughts I had that I wanted to run by you folks. Obviously, what's going to make this very attractive is that we're going to have a portable console. If they can fit games, like imagine they could fit something like Dark Souls on there, or RPGs like Shin Megami Tensei, which it has been announced that Atlas is one of the publishers interested. This could be a very big deal. But it does raise a question. Who is Nintendo competing with, if anyone at all? As we've seen, Nintendo has certainly dominated the handheld space, with, of course, the DS and 3DS line. But with the Nintendo Switch, I don't see them competing with the mobile space. The reason why smartphones have become such a big portion, or a big part of our lives, is the accessibility. I can put something in my pocket that's like this big that has more functionality that it rivals computers. And it just so happens to play games as well. With the Nintendo Switch, if they're doing the same thing with the 3DS, it's not really going to compete with mobile because it's not going to have that functionality. It also looks very big. I don't think we're going to be fitting that in our pockets anytime soon. Now, with the idea of using a cartridge, which is I think that's the current rumor, but it may be confirmed, I'm kind of wondering what kind of games are even going to fit on it. Of course, they showed Skyrim, but there's no confirmation that Skyrim will actually be on the system at this moment. And, of course, this goes back to Nintendo being Nintendo. And Nintendo is probably the only console developer who can get away with this. The quote-unquote Nintendo magic is a real thing. It's up there with, of course, Blizzard. When you buy a game from Blizzard, you're expecting something of a higher quality or of a different kind of polish that you would from other developers. And Nintendo is definitely the same way. We are all going to line up when the next Mario game is announced, or the next Zelda game. And maybe they'll get around to announcing another Star Tropics game. But that's just me, I think. But as we've said, Nintendo is at its best doing its own thing. And with the Nintendo Switch, they're not aiming to be the #1 console. And again, that's a smart move. They want to be the other console. they know you're going to buy a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One if you want the latest console games and the latest first, second, and third party titles like that. So, if you've already gotten that and you want something completely different, let's go with the Nintendo Switch. The other thing that's kind of interesting is that they're not marketing this as a family console anymore. As you saw with the Wii and the Wii U, it was heavily advertised as, this thing that anyone in your family can play. Hook it up and you and your kids and your grandparents can all play a game, very accessible, stuff like that. The Switch is being marketed more as something that you can play games literally everywhere. Do you want to play them in your home? Do you want to take them to a friend's house? Do you want to take them on a plane? You can do all that. And looking at it, and again I'm staring at it as I'm talking, it is definitely different. There's not going to be another console like that. Which takes me to another thought. What is that going to mean for our friend the DS here, or the 3DS, what I'm holding right now? Nintendo handheld market has definitely been something that has sustained them over the years, especially when the market has dropped out for the Wii and the Wii U. With the Nintendo Switch, obviously it's going to be a portable console. And it's leaving a lot of us wondering, is there still going to be a handheld market for them? Or is it all going to just be folded together? Now, another point that needs to be mentioned is that obviously with that Nintendo Switch, there is no dual screen like we have with the 3DS here. And that raises another question. For each feature that's going to be on Nintendo Switch, how are developers going to be built around it? As you can see, it's going to be designed around different ways of playing it, different means of accessing it. Again, you can plug in that base, it connects to your TV, or you take it out and it's its own portable system. But that's going to leave a lot of room for developers in terms of figuring out, are we going to support the Joy-Con system? Is it going to be a controller Pro? Do we hook up to the TV? Do we not? Stuff like that. And on one hand, it's going to give publishers the means of saying, we're going to release something entirely unique, you're not going to see it, and get on that marketing. On the flip side, of course, it means we're going to release something that you're not going to be playing on the Xbox One or PS4. And again, there is that risk involved. And Nintendo is certainly, throwing their Hail Mary playing it right now with the Switch. Other than that, I think that does it for my thoughts. Oh, one last thing. There are rumors as to whether or not it will still feature Amiibo support. They showed a few Amiibos in the 3-minute video, but there hasn't been an announcement yet as to what's going to happen. Obviously, with the Wii U, they are changing things up drastically. And as you know, I made a post a few weeks ago regarding my thoughts on the fact that the Amiibos have been disappearing from their public eye. Now, whether this proves me wrong or not, we shall see. But it's only going to be a few interesting months for Nintendo and what this all means for them. So with that said, let's wrap things up here. If you have any questions or comments regarding Nintendo Switch, be sure to leave them below. Check out our Game Wisdom Live segment, which was linked above somewhere there, if you want to see us have a more general discussion about it. Other than that, once again, thank you to 815 subscribers here on YouTube. I hope you all are really enjoying the content, and when we hit 900, that will mean another vote for a Let's Play. Once again, I'm Josh Bycer from GameWisdom.com. Thanks for watching today's video. I'll see you all tomorrow with more great content, and be sure to check out our podcast this week with Chris Park talking about Arkin Games and the Kickstarter for AI Wars 2. It's a long one, but it's certainly an interesting one. I will see you all tomorrow, and have a great day. Take care. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and of course share with your friends. It always helps out. For daily posts on all manner of game design and industry topics, check out game-wisdom.com. To support the site and everything that I do, be sure to check out the Patreon campaign. If we can hit goals, it will mean more content for everyone to enjoy, and I'll be able to support myself and my household. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter at GW for updates throughout the day and random thoughts from me. And lastly, you can find me on Twitch right over there at GW for daily streams most nights around 10 Eastern. Thanks again for watching the video, and be sure to check out more great content coming to the Game Wisdom channel real soon.